Let's talk about my favorite show in all of television, and I will not apologize for it. No, it's not House of the Dragon. No, it's not Shogun. It's not The Boys. Here are my immediate thoughts, and this will be a spoiler edition of Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 1. Hey everyone, it's Lenny here. So we're going to do sort of a free-form spoiler edition of my favorite show on television, Netflix's Cobra Kai, and we're on season 6, and Netflix dropped the first part of the season, 5 episodes, and let's just get into this. So yes, Cobra Kai is my favorite show on television. I admit it is not the best show, but in terms of pure entertainment value, Cobra Kai gives me everything I want. So let's give you some context. I am a major fan of the Karate Kid franchise. The first Karate Kid movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. Karate Kid Part 2, I'm just so nostalgic over. Karate Kid Part 3 is one of the best bonkers movies of all time, just based off of the villain, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit. And then we got some of the other, we got the Hilary Swank Karate Kid movie, and then we had the other Karate Kid, which really wasn't karate, it was more kung fu with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. But in terms of the original Karate Kid with Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence and that whole thing, that is what I'm here for. And Cobra Kai, for those that are uninitiated, this follows the exploits of Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence, the rivals from the original Karate Kid, decades later. So we're back in the valley. Johnny Lawrence, who's poor guy, is just a complete loser who's trapped in the 80s. He's in the valley. He's trying to get his life back together. Daniel LaRusso, he's a successful, he owns his own car dealership. He's successful. He's married with children, everything like that. Poor Johnny's just trying to get his life back together. And the first season of Cobra Kai is great because it kind of flips things and makes it look like that Daniel is sort of the villain, which there were fan theories about that stuff all way back in the day, saying, well, Daniel LaRusso was actually the main bully, and Willem Zabka's character, Johnny Lawrence, was really the victim, throughout all this. So this all flips, and, we see Johnny Lawrence try to restart Cobra Kai as a dojo, and he runs afoul of Daniel LaRusso, and Daniel decides he's going to restart Miyagi-Do, and they all have their own students, and things just go absolutely crazy. Season 4, I think, is my favorite season for a couple of reasons. One, it introduced the amazing Terry Silver, played by Thomas Ian Griffith, who is one of my favorite villains in all of television of all time. But also it dealt with the tournament, the All Valley tournament, and everything that led up to that. And that was my favorite season. But we're in season 6 now, and just as in terms of what happened in the last season, season 5, this is where everything kind of came to a head with all the students in Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang. That's the dojo that Johnny would run, and they all got together to combat Terry Silver, and Terry Silver took over Cobra Kai. Chosen came back from Japan. Chosen was the villain from Part 2. Mike Barnes from Part 3 even would make an appearance. I mean, it was just an absolute crazy season. But season 5 ended with Terry Silver going to prison after this big, insane melee and fight, and John Kreese escaping from prison. And things just got absolutely bonkers and crazy just based off of that. So there are a lot of questions going into season 6. There's the big Sakai Takai tournament, the global karate tournament that's taking place in Barcelona. Who's going to be chosen and who's going to compete in that? A lot of things, we're going to get into all of that. So yeah, let's call a spade a spade. Cobra Kai is a soap opera with karate. Now, why do I love this show so much? It's because I'm a wrestling fan, and this show is basically a wrestling promotion on Netflix. This is Monday Night Raw before Monday Night Raw appears on Netflix next year in January 2025. It takes the idea of all these different people competing in a physical sport and takes the soap opera nature of people, having different character motivations, and they turn based on that. You're a villain or you're a hero based on those alliances, and people will make decisions that will make them turn. Are they going to be a bad guy this season? Are they going to be a good guy this season? And we see that a lot. I mean, when things started, Johnny Lawrence, played by Billy Zabka, he was kind of the baby face when things started. Even though when the Karate Kid, franchise started, and we saw him in 1984, he was the heel, he was the bad guy. And Daniel LaRusso, Ralph Macchio, was the baby face. Now things had flipped. And in season 1 of Cobra Kai, Daniel was sort of the heel. He was sort of being a bit of an annoyed prick and talking down to Johnny, who's really just trying to get his life back in order. But we get all of these kids that, that want to learn karate, and they all have the different motivations, whether they were bullied, whether they're just in these bad situations, like at home, and they're using karate as a way to cope and things like that. So we see all of these things play out. And it's just great because every season we see these kids and how they turn and their motivation. This season, like I said, really the main plot is preparing the kids for the Sekai Sekai karate tournament that's going to take place in Barcelona. So the first episode of the season is called Peace in the Valley, and it's just resetting the pieces of the board in Cobra Kai. Now that Terry Silver is in jail, now that John Kreese is sort of out of the picture, he's not in the United States anymore. And we see all the kids kind of getting back together, and they're now supposed to be in a situation where they're all on the same page and getting along. So we're seeing, Miguel, played by Ozolo Manduela, Robbie, played by Tanner Buchanan, Tori, played by Peyton List, who she's the MVP for me this season. She is outstanding. We'll get to that. Mary Mouse, who plays Sam LaRusso. Those are kind of the main four that kind of compete, and they're the main four kids that the show surrounds. But what I do also appreciate is that there is all these supporting characters as well that also have great stories, whether it's a Hawk, played by Jacob Bertrand, or Dimitri, their relationship, that's Gianni DeCenzo, or whether it's the rivalry between Kenny and Anthony LaRusso. There's just a lot going on. So yeah, when the season begins, we have our kids and our three senseis, Daniel, Johnny, and Chosen, and they're going to be training the kids for the Sekai Sekai. And what was great when everything starts, so like I said, everyone is getting along, and Johnny tries to put a wedge in between Sam and Tori. He does this whole girls' night out. He's also with Devin, and she has a big arc so far in this season as well. Johnny will see Miguel's and Robbie's phones, and will try to text Tori and Sam to make it seem like they're flipping on their girlfriends to make them, look like that they're going to go at it. Johnny is trying to train these kids to basically kill, while Daniel's that's not how Miyagi-Do is run, and that's kind of the big thing with the senseis. There's this whole thing about, how Mr. Miyagi and Miyagi-Do, would run things. And, Daniel has his own ideology of that compared to, how Johnny sees things. And Johnny still is very Cobra Kai in how he teaches his kids. And that's all funny. He throws bottles at them and will do weird kata things with grab your balls, and it's funny, it's hilarious. But there's also a plot line where Daniel finds a box under the dojo, under the floorboards of the dojo, and they find out that Mr. Miyagi had a past, and at some point he must have been involved in some sort of dangerous, violent crime where he fled the United States and everything like that. And Daniel is having a very hard time coping with that, and he's always had this idea of Mr. Miyagi, and he's put Mr. Miyagi on this pedestal of being this ultra super good person. And Mr. Miyagi, when we see him in the Karate Kid movies, is this great person. Seems like his moral center is there and just gives a bunch of great life lessons. But we get this new wrinkle in season 6 where it looks like maybe there isn't everything that we know about Mr. Miyagi, and Daniel is having a very hard time dealing with that. And because of that, it's bringing some friction between him and Johnny. And Johnny at the time isn't aware of why Daniel is acting very weird. And there is a little bit, I will say, of regression in terms of Daniel's character growth. But I do kind of get it, because he is in this weird place of he thought he knew someone, his own sensei, and now all of that is being upended and questioned. And he just doesn't know if if Mr. Miyagi was not this person that he knew, does that mean miyagi-do is not what he thought it was? And that's kind of the big conflict that Daniel is dealing with this season. So if anyone remembers the end of season 5, John Kreese, played by Martin Kove, who is the sensei, the main sensei bad guy from the original Karate Kid movie from 1984, he escaped from prison. What? So now he's in South Korea. He's with Alicia Hannah Kim, who is Kim Dae-eun. She was one of his students, and her father, I think it's her father or grandfather or uncle, I can't remember, but he was Kreese's sensei way back in the day when Kreese was in, after he left Vietnam. Him and Terry Silver, they, had him as their sensei, and now he's back in South Korea. And man, that whole sequence of Kreese being in South Korea was insane. They had a whole thing where the sensei comes back, and the sensei is basically the master of the flying fucking guillotine. He's the old school sensei with the long beard, the long white hair, and he's an asshole too. And there's this whole scene where it's literally the cave scene from The Empire Strikes Back, where John Kreese has to go into a cave and face his fears or face his weakness. And it's all manifested in Terry Silver and Johnny Lawrence, and there's a cobra in there, and he has to face this cobra, and it is wild. It is wild. And it's one of those things, because this show goes so over the top that it can go over the top to where it's just absolutely silly. But Cobra Kai does this miraculous thing where it's so over the top and silly that it comes back to being sort of awesome, because it's doing a wink and nod to the audience. This show clearly knows that it is not serious, that it is a soap opera with punches and kicks and revels in it. And I am all here for it, and that's why I like the show, because it knows exactly what it is and gives the audience exactly what it wants. Now with the three senseis, with Daniel and Chosen and Johnny, doing everything to get these kids ready for the tournament, they find out that only 6 of these kids are actually going to be able to participate. So there's a lot of, trying to weed out, who's going to participate, how they're going to figure out how these kids are going to join the team, for Miyagi-Do and everything like that. So the 3 senseis, try to get these kids, ready and everything like that. And Daniel comes up with one of the wildest ideas. He brings in Mike Barnes from Karate Kid Part 3. He was one of the main villains with Terry Silver. Mike Barnes was also in season 5. He was just a welcome addition. And Barnes is just a straight up dick and is we're going to do everything my way or the highway. He does these crazy things like capture the flag and everything like that. While this is going on, Devin, who is one of Johnny's big prodigies from season, I think she was introduced in season 4. She started out on the debate team, and Johnny was like, "You're a killer. You are perfect for this." So she has this whole thing where she's trying to get validation, and at the same time, she is not feeling very confident in herself while everything's going on with like the capture the flag. Like Mike Barnes isn't noticing what she's doing. Mike Barnes and Johnny's like having their own, tete-a-tete because Johnny's trying to get Mike to notice Devin, and Mike's not really noticing. He's really noticing everything she's doing wrong, and that's not helping things either. And then we get this crazy scene where Johnny goes to Mike Barnes' furniture shop. And in last season, Barnes' furniture shop was burned down by Terry Silver. So he has his own little place where he's doing some stuff. And Johnny comes in, he's like, "Hey, look, man, we got off on the wrong foot. We're both bad boys, but did you really give a fair shake to Devin?" He's like, "I kind of did. And she was actually the worst out of everyone." And they get into a fight, and a blade turns on. And I'm like, are they really going to try to kill each other? It's a crazy fight. And one of the great things with Cobra Kai is there is always an insane fight in every episode, whether it's the fight in the first episode at the splash pad. That fight was actually really cool with Kenny and his brother came back out of juvie, and they're fighting. Miguel and Robbie and Tori and Sam eventually get involved as well. That fight was actually really cool. Then we get Kyler, who is a complete asshole, and he's in college now. He's trying to join a fraternity, and he's being treated horribly. And Miguel and everyone are there, and Miguel finds out that Kyler is, being bullied and hazed. And even despite all of this, he's not going to join this fraternity. So when this is discovered, we get another big fight where Kyler's like, "Bitch, don't you know I know karate?" And we get an amazing little fight. And like I said, every episode has at least one boss fight that I really, really enjoy. One of the big plot lines this season has to do with Tori, and her mother has cancer. And that was one of the big through lines. I think this started out for around season 2 or so. I think that's when that was really introduced. But her mother actually dies. When things start, I think it's actually episode 5. When things start, things are looking up for her mom. She's getting, new medication. The nurse or the doctor is telling her she's doing such a good job of taking care of her mom. But when she gets home, her mom dies. And it throws Tori out for a loop. And Peyton List, like I said, is the MVP of this season. She acts her ass off in this season, especially episode 5. And you see it when she shows up to fight Sam to decide who's going to be the female captain for the Sekai Takai tournament. And you could just see the pain on her face is palpable. You can tell that she is suffering from grief. She is angry and everything like that. And that whole sequence where she's trying to fight Sam and no one knows what's going on, but everyone's kind of noticing that something is not right with Tori, all the way up to, Daniel's wife finding out what's happening and stopping the fight, and Tori exploding, "My mother died," and all of that stuff. That was just such a well done sequence. And Peyton List's acting was just so off the chain. I really appreciated that. And that obviously turns into the big twist of the end of part 1, where Tori eventually joins the Cobra Kai team in South Korea as part of John Kreese's team for the Sekai Takai tournament. And that is just insane how that all comes about as well. But yeah, there is that whole plot line with Tori and her mom and everything like that. And her and Sam Mary Mouser's character, when things start out, it seems like that there's going to be some friction, but one of the things too that I really like about this show is it does show the growth of these characters. Sometimes they regress, but for the most part, these characters do grow, and we see these rivalries mend. And we see, for example, like Miguel and Robbie, even though they are fierce rivals and competitors, they are still friends. Even though we had that crazy fight in season 2 where Miguel broke his back, we see all that too, because Robbie is like, this whole time, everything with him, every time he's ever competed, he's always come in second place, and Miguel is that big hump, and he needs to beat Miguel. And so they have their big battle to compete for being the male captain for Miyagi-Do in the Sekai Takai tournament. And again, we see, drops or hints where there could be some friction, where Miguel is like, if I win this tournament, if this could do a lot for me because I'm looking to go into college, and that's gonna look good on my college resume. At the same time, Robbie isn't going to college. He's probably going to go right into the workplace, but he's like, hey, karate is a big deal to me. Are you trying to say that because I'm not going to college that, winning the, doing good in the tournament isn't going to do well for me? There's a lot of friction, but again, there is some, character growth where these guys are able to, mend fences. And even though they are fierce competitors, like I said, they do respect each other in the end. Now, if anyone remembers, Robbie is actually Johnny Lawrence's estranged son. So there's, this crazy relationship between the two of them. But Johnny is also, sort of a surrogate father to Miguel. He is, he lives with Miguel's mom. They're about to have a child together, a girl. There's this funny scene where they do a gender reveal, and the pink box explodes in Daniel's face to do the gender reveal. That's actually pretty funny. But there's that, complicated relationship as well. And that plays out really well as well. I did really appreciate the fact that these senseis, they all have these different relationships with their different, students and pupils. And there's a lot of different complications. I really like that. Another one of the major plot points, as I alluded to, has to do with Devon Lee, played by Una O'Brien. And like I said, she was the debater that Johnny Lawrence noticed and was like, hey, you're a killer. So she's trying to do everything to get noticed, and she actually does something really crazy. She is in a Final Four for the last 2 spots. It's between her, Kenny, Dimitri, and Hawk. And things take a turn when the scene goes on, and they're doing kind of like a capture the flag that Mike Barnes kind of sets up in the forest. Devon and Kenny go one direction. Hawk and Dimitri go another direction. And we see Kenny running back, and everyone's like, oh, Kenny won, and captured the flag. But instead, Kenny actually got a hold of some laxatives. Someone put laxatives in his water. At first, we think it's Anthony LaRusso because there seems to be, some conflict from the two of them from, I think, like season 3 or season 4, where Anthony bullied Kenny, and Kenny tried to get his revenge. He used Cobra Kai to get his revenge on Anthony, and it seemed like that was still going on. But it was, in fact, Devon that put the laxatives in Kenny's water. She is one of those people that is like, hey, I'm just going to do anything to win. And she kind of got that from Johnny. So it's almost like, yeah, she did a really shitty thing, but her sensei kind of instilled that in her. Another one of the big plot points this season has to do with Dimitri and Hawk. Hawk played by Eli Mankiewicz, and Gianni DiCenzo, who plays Dimitri. These guys have been best friends. We've seen that from season 1. They both are nerds, or at least when things started, they were both nerds. They got into karate. Hawk had a complete personality transplant when he went with the whole mohawk. He was one of the biggest heels in the show for a while, and that had one of the best babyface turns when he did end up winning the All Valley. He won the All Valley tournament in season 4. And that was a great redemption arc for him. But him and Dimitri, they're basically geniuses, and they're talking about going to MIT together. That's kind of like one of the running gags where another one of the students, another one of their friends find out that he went to MIT and is like, wait, he's an idiot. How'd he get in? Wait, his SAT score was like 790? This is impossible. But they find he didn't really go to MIT. It's another MIT. But eventually, Hawk is like, I'm not sure if I want to go to MIT. I mean, MIT was more your dream, Dimitri. And now that I've gotten to karate and, I'm seeing that there's a bigger world out there than just MIT. I want to, expand my horizons. This obviously puts a rift between the two friends because Dimitri has always seen him and Hawk as, best friends. They're going to do everything together. They're going to go to college together. They're going to do karate together and everything like that. Dimitri, his girlfriend, gets on him, and because Dimitri is not feeling very confident in himself, and he's like, hey, I'm not going to make this Sakai Takai. It's all good. And his girlfriend's like, ew, you need to have some confidence in yourself. And again, that's another bit of character growth because the girlfriend, I'm losing her name off the top of my head, but she was a bitch when everything started. She was so mean to Dimitri, but then eventually her and Dimitri became a thing, and they're actually one of the cuter couples in the show. But she gets Dimitri and she's like, listen, you need to be confident in yourself, and I believe in you, but it doesn't matter if you don't believe in yourself. So Dimitri's like, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. You're right. I am going to do my best, and I'm going to make the Sakai Takai tournament. So the other part of that capture the flag chase. So we have Dimitri and Hawk, fighting in the forest, and Dimitri, takes the flag, and it's a really sad scene in terms of you seeing how this friendship deteriorates. And Dimitri is able to get the flag. He comes back, and it's a shock. It was a genuine shock because no one was expecting Dimitri to be one of the final six to make it to the Sakai Takai. So from what we gathered, the people that were supposed to go to Barcelona for the global tournament was going to be Miguel, Robbie, Tori, Sam. We had Dimitri and Devin. But eventually, when things happened with Tori's mom, she left, and she wound up going to Cobra Kai. So John Kreese, in one moment, shows up with in a parking garage and confronts Tori, and everyone's like, this guy should not be in this country at all. And I recognize that. That is a major thing. But it's also sort of silly, and also sort of one of those things about the Karate Kid that sort of tracks, because there are silly things that happen in the Karate Kid franchise that are just like, yeah, it wouldn't happen in the real world. So yeah, that tracks with the franchise, so it didn't really bother me that much. But and at the same time, he was only in the United States, I think, only for that one scene. And it was really to try to recruit Tori and to kind of plant those seeds in her head. So when she did show up at the end of episode 5, that ended part 1 of this season, it was like, kind of the big shock, big reveal. Tori has done this heel turn. So with Tori not going, they decided that, Devin was going to take her place, and Hawk was going to take her place in the tournament. So that's what we got going up and ready for now part 2 of season 6. And I'm assuming that part 2 is going to kind of handle the Sakai Takai tournament. We're probably going to get more into Mr. Miyagi's past and, getting all that. Chosen is in Japan right now. I'm assuming that we're probably going to touch base on that through line or that plot line, because he was talking about there's a woman in Osaka that he's in love with, and he wants to get back with, or at least let her know how he feels. When everything's supposed to go down, there's this whole thing with Johnny and Daniel were after the Sakai Takai tournament. They're going to go their own separate ways because, it seems like Johnny feels like Daniel is undermining him as a sensei, and there's a lot of things that goes on. There's a funny scene where Johnny's doing a test drive with a customer from the dealership, and he notices Daniel's car in the forest, and he pulls over with this guy. It's totally unprofessional, by the way. But then he goes back to the dealership, and he's like, I quit. He does this whole Jerry Maguire thing. It's like, who's coming with me? And he's like, I'm going to steal some cars off the lot. It's just ridiculous. It's hilarious. And Billy Zabka is one of the best things about this show. And obviously one of the selling points of this show is, Billy Zabka as Johnny Lawrence, being this guy who's still stuck in the 80s, but is trying to evolve and is using karate as a way to get his life back in order. So seeing him evolve as a person and seeing, Billy Zabka, his performance in this is just great as well. Also, it was great to see Paul Walter Hauser back as Stingray, even if it was just for a few minutes. I'm going to assume he's probably going to have a bigger role during this season as the season is unraveled. And also, we did not see Terry Silver at all. No Thomas Ian Griffith in the first 5 episodes of this season. But I am certain that Terry Silver is going to make. There is no way that this show does not end with Terry Silver at least trying one final time to be just one of the best villains on television and try to take Miyagi-Do down and who knows how things are going to turn out. But yeah, there's so much going on, and this is just the first 5 episodes. We have 10 more episodes to go, and I am here for it. But yeah, man, I love this show. I love everyone in it. I love, what the show does. It makes the Karate Kid movies better. You actually go back and like what Cobra Kai did in terms of making the Karate Kid Part 3 one of the least watchable Karate Kid movies, and actually made it relevant and actually made me go back and be like, wow, there's so much more context added to this movie just based off of season 4 and Thomas Ian Griffiths and Terry Silver. That's why this show is so good, is able to recontextualize things from the Karate Kid franchise and just make it even more. And I just love it. So far, I'm not going to give a full rating on the season because it's not done yet. We're only a third into it. But I am really, really enjoying it, and I am just going to be there for the rest of this season. Now I'm going to be really sad to see this show end, but it's going to be on Netflix, and this is going to be one of those shows that I'm just going to always binge watch because I just love the fuck out of it. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this season. It's not so far, I want to say it's not my favorite. I think season 4 is still my favorite. I think from beginning to end, season 4 was just the top of the line for the show. But I can see where things are starting to ramp up for Cobra Kai in season 6. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts and feelings for Cobra Kai season 6 part 1 on Netflix. I'm having a hell of a time with it. But what did you guys think of the season so far? Share your thoughts. Leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can get notifications as well. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.